The bright lights of Earth's central command post blinked erratically as the alarm echoed through the vast underground bunker. Commander Mira Kane struggled to adjust her tangled mess of dark hair, which had been hastily pulled back into a bun just moments before she was yanked into the Situation Room. A map of the solar system flickered on the large digital screen, her reflection blending with the image of distant planets, an unsettling backdrop to the chaos around her. She had been living on caffeine and stress for the past 3 days, with barely any sleep, when the message came through. It was cryptic, but the implications were unmistakable. Something had happened to humanity, a tipping point had been reached, and the universe would never be the same. Her fingers hovered over the control panel, hesitating as if the next action might change everything. Her heart pounded. "What did you mean they snapped?" she had asked the operator. It was a question that lingered, unanswered, in the back of her mind. Just a few months ago, humanity had been one of the many fledgling species within the Intergalactic Federation, trying to keep up with the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. Earth's technologies were old by their standards, primitive, even, but humanity had always made up for it with sheer audacity. Their warriors, the pride of the Federation, had proven themselves in battle. Their ships, designed with ferocity in mind, flew faster and harder than anyone anticipated. But this was different. The Federation's representatives were confused. The sudden, unexplained shift in humanity's behavior had thrown the galaxy into disarray. Mira, as Earth's representative, was now caught in the middle of the Federation's frantic communication, trying to get to the bottom of the situation. She stood in the war room, looking out the window at the sky above Earth, which was dotted with alien ships hovering ominously, waiting for orders. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, but Myra's thoughts kept returning to the first time she saw the message: "We've done it. We've snapped." Snapping. The word clung to her mind, a simple idea with enormous consequences. Could humanity truly have snapped in the way they were suggesting? It seemed so impossible. Humans had always been unpredictable, yes, but this felt different. More like a rupture, a tearing apart of everything they had built over millennia. "We don't know what happened," her subordinate, Lieutenant Ash, reported, his voice tinged with disbelief. He was younger, fresh out of the academy, and he couldn't seem to tear his eyes away from the new message, displayed on the large screen. "More attacks across the galaxy," Ash continued, "but this time, it's not just humans fighting back. The other species are scared. They're retreating." Mira could barely concentrate on his words. Scared. The word echoed in her mind as her thoughts whirled. Humans had always been the underdog, fighting to prove they belonged, but now, with their sudden, unexplained shift in behavior, the galaxy's greatest powers were afraid of them. Myra's instincts screamed that something was wrong, deeply wrong. But what? A chime broke her thoughts. The Federation's leader, Supreme Chancellor Tyrex, was calling again. He had been insistent, demanding answers, even though Mira had nothing concrete to offer. "Yes?" Mira said, not bothering with pleasantries. "Commander Kane," the voice of Chancellor Tyrex crackled through the comms. "I need a full report on Earth's behavior immediately. No more delays, no more half-answers. We need to know what's going on." Mira felt a chill as Tyrex's words rang through her mind. It wasn't like him to be this direct, but she understood. The galaxy's most powerful nations were at risk of an uprising from the very species they had once considered a mere curiosity. "I understand, Chancellor. But, as I've told you, we're still working to understand the situation. This sudden shift in humanity's behavior is unprecedented. If you could give me more time." "No. Time is something we don't have. You have 24 hours. If you cannot provide us with an explanation by then, we will be forced to act. The Federation cannot afford another unknown variable in its midst." The transmission cut off, leaving Mira to stare at the dark screen in silence. "What are we dealing with?" she whispered to herself. In the quiet of the war room, Myra's mind raced as the map of the galaxy flickered across the screen. Earth, once a small dot among the stars, now seemed to pulsate with an ominous energy. Ships moved in strange patterns. Humans' military fleet had once been a simple show of force, but now, it was doing something else, something dangerous. She turned sharply to Lieutenant Ash, who had been working frantically at a console, running through endless streams of data. His face was pale, his usual enthusiasm replaced with anxiety. "Mira," Ash said, his voice shaking slightly, "I don't think we're looking at a random occurrence. These reports, they're too coordinated. The attacks. The sudden withdrawal of other species. It's all linked." Myra's breath hitched. She had known this was coming, but to hear it out loud made it more real. Something had driven humanity to a breaking point, but what? Could it be? She paused, trying to form the thought, could it be that humans have united? All at once? Ash met her gaze, his eyes wide with disbelief. "It's possible, I suppose. But this isn't just unity, it's something else. Something darker. They're too coordinated. And, look at this." He pulled up a series of encrypted files. "I'm seeing reports from across the galaxy. Humanity has access to new technology, things they shouldn't have been able to develop yet." Mira frowned. "New tech? How could that be?" The Federation had seen Earth's advancements, they were crude, compared to what the galaxy had to offer. There was no way humans could suddenly. Wait. Myra's mind flickered with an idea. She had been thinking in too narrow a frame. Humans were brilliant at resourcefulness, but they were also incredibly adaptable. What if they had found a way to reverse engineer some of the Federation's lost technologies? Or, Myra's thoughts spun, what if they had simply been playing the long game? She paced, her boots clicking on the cold floor as she wrestled with the growing realization. Something had happened to humanity. Something monumental. And the rest of the galaxy had no idea what they were up against. The challenge was clear now, Mira had to figure out what caused this. But more than that, she needed to stop humanity's unstoppable momentum. If they really had snapped, if they had gone beyond the limits of what anyone had thought possible, then the entire galaxy was on the brink of a cataclysm. It wasn't just the humans themselves at risk, it was everyone. Myra's mind sharpened. The time for hesitation was over. If humanity was truly capable of this transformation, then it would be up to her to stop them before the Federation faced the consequences of a mistake that had taken centuries to reach. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the communication controls. She needed a plan, and fast. Outside, the fleet's ships glided through the atmosphere, their sleek forms cutting through the sky like knives. And in the heart of Earth's military command center, a single word burned brightly in Myra's mind, snapped. Myra's hand rested on the edge of the table as she stared at the now chaotic map of the galaxy, the once calm displays now filled with erratic data streams and glowing warnings. It felt as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. The unsettling realization of how far humanity had come, and how quickly, drove her thoughts into a frenzy. "We need to act fast," she said, her voice carrying a sharp edge. "Ash, how long until we get a response from the rest of the Federation?" Ash had been tapping away at his console, trying to decode the encrypted signals coming from Earth's fleet. "Still waiting on some feedback, Commander. It's like they're jamming every line of communication we try. They've gone dark." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight, and Mira could feel the pressure mounting in her chest. Earth had always been unpredictable, but she had never expected it to spiral into something this dangerous. Humanity, under her leadership, had always been small in the eyes of the galaxy, constantly fighting for recognition and respect. But now, something had triggered them, something that had made them more powerful than anyone ever imagined. There were too many unknowns, too many moving pieces. Mira knew they were racing against time. She wasn't sure what was worse, knowing humanity had taken a monumental leap, or that she had no idea where this new path would lead them. The Federation had demanded answers, and Mira was supposed to be the one to provide them. But every lead she chased only raised more questions. Why had humans suddenly turned against the very species they had once depended on? Why were they suddenly so terrifyingly capable? Suddenly, the room's doors swished open, and in walked Admiral Garrick, one of Myra's most trusted officers, his face drawn with worry. "Commander, you need to see this." Mira followed him to another console, where the data was laid out. "What is it?" He pointed at the screen. "This. It's a live feed from a Federation surveillance ship. We intercepted it just moments ago." Myra's gaze snapped to the image. What appeared to be a human ship, once rudimentary and outdated in design, was now pulsating with an eerie green light. It was an ancient model, the kind humans had built back when they were still getting their feet wet in space. But there was something new about it, something unnervingly unfamiliar. The ship had been retrofitted with technology the Federation had been unable to replicate for centuries, technology that had been thought lost after the fall of one of the greatest galactic empires. "That shouldn't be possible," Mira muttered, disbelief rising in her chest. She zoomed in on the ship's exterior. Massive thrusters, glistening like freshly forged steel, hummed with an unnatural energy. "Where did they get that tech?" "We believe they found something ancient," Garrick said, his voice trembling slightly. "A hidden cache from a species thought extinct, the Skron. If what we're seeing is correct, humans have somehow unlocked their lost technologies." "Impossible." Mira shook her head, struggling to process the information. The Skron were an enigmatic race, known for their technological prowess but wiped out in a cataclysmic war millennia ago. Their ships were considered relics of a time long past, and their tech had been studied for centuries by galactic scientists, but no one had ever been able to reverse engineer it. "Tell me this isn't happening," Mira muttered, running a hand through her hair. "We're doing our best, Commander," Garrick replied, "but the reality is undeniable. Whatever triggered the snap in humanity, they've stumbled upon something far more powerful than we could ever have anticipated." The room went silent as the enormity of the situation settled in. Humans had always been known for their resourcefulness, their ability to adapt to the impossible, but this was something else entirely. Mira felt a chill crawl up her spine. If humanity truly had tapped into the long-lost technology of the Skron, then the rest of the galaxy was no longer the apex of power. Earth had just become a contender. "Get me a direct line to the Federation leadership," Mira ordered, her voice steely. "We need to inform them about this. If they've reached this level, they can't be allowed to continue unchecked." Days passed, and the tension in the command room only escalated. The Federation's top brass had finally responded with their own fleet, more than double the size of humanity's, but it was clear that this wasn't just another diplomatic matter. Myra's fingers hovered over the control panel as she watched the fleet of ships, still coming into range of Earth's defenses. From the looks of it, the Federation wasn't just coming for answers anymore, they were preparing for war. On the surface, the situation seemed calm. But Mira knew better than anyone that appearances could be deceiving. She could feel it, the tremors of a larger battle brewing just beneath the surface. Humanity's new capabilities had put the Federation on edge. The unexpected alliances and terrifying advancements were causing ripple effects that reached the farthest corners of the galaxy. The Federation's response was swift: new technologies, new weapons, new tactics. But as the Federation's ships entered Earth's orbit, Mira saw something that made her stomach churn. Their response was a simple show of force, massive ships of unimaginable size and firepower, but they weren't prepared for the kind of warfare humanity had developed. Mira wasn't sure anyone could be. A sudden alert broke her thoughts. "Commander, incoming transmission from Earth," Ash said. His fingers flew across the console, opening the encrypted message. The video feed was grainy at first, then cleared to show a human commander. His face was stern, his eyes cold with authority. It was clear from his uniform that he wasn't part of the usual Earth command structure. This was a new faction, a new breed of human military leader. "Commander Kane," he said, his voice firm. "This is Captain Nara of the Earth Defense Fleet. We have taken control of the situation. The Federation will no longer dictate terms to humanity." Myra's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, taken control?" she demanded. "We've activated the Skron technology, Commander," Captain Nara continued. The fleets we've built are armed with energy weapons capable of incapacitating entire fleets in seconds. We have no intention of retreating, and no negotiation is possible. Mira stared at the screen, unable to find words. This was worse than she had feared. Humanity, driven by a sudden surge of power, had crossed a line. It wasn't just a matter of defiance anymore, it was a matter of survival. "We're done being pawns," Captain Nara's voice echoed, before the transmission abruptly cut off. The room fell silent. Myra's pulse quickened as she realized the full scale of the problem. Earth had not only snapped, it had evolved. Humanity had tapped into a power so great that even the Federation could be destroyed in a heartbeat. But how did this happen? How could humanity, with no prior knowledge of this ancient technology, master it so quickly? Mira took a deep breath. The clock was ticking, and Earth's new leadership was not about to back down. She needed answers. And fast. "Get me all the data we have on the Scron," she ordered, her voice commanding. "I want everything we've ever learned about their technology, their culture, every scrap. This is no longer just about stopping humanity. It's about understanding them." She didn't wait for a response, already deep in thought. If the galaxy was going to survive this unexpected evolution of humanity, it would need more than force. It would need a plan. And Mira knew, deep down, that the answer wasn't going to come from a weapon. It was going to come from understanding the very thing that had driven humanity to this point. It wasn't just power. It was fear. And fear, she knew, was the true force humanity had unlocked. The room felt suffocating. Mira stood at the front of the command center, staring at the holographic display of Earth's fleet arrayed against the Federation's armada. The numbers were staggering. Humanity's fleet had grown from a handful of outdated vessels into an overwhelming force of sleek, advanced warships, each one armed with Scron technology that could tear through the Federation's ships in seconds. Myra's mind raced as she paced back and forth. She had expected a fight, but not like this. The Federation had underestimated the sheer will and ingenuity of humanity, and now they were paying the price. The balance of power had shifted irreversibly. The stakes had never been higher. She could feel the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders, pressing her into a corner with no easy way out. Admiral Garrick stood beside her, his expression grim. "Commander, the Federation's fleet is waiting for your orders. If we engage them, we'll be outnumbered. Our best hope is to buy time, but Earth isn't showing any signs of retreating. We need a strategy." "Strategy?" Mira snapped, turning sharply to face him. "There's no strategy against this. Earth's not just fighting back, they've taken the initiative. This is war." Garrick's face darkened. "We can't let them have complete control, Mira. We're not just talking about a rebellion anymore. We're talking about the end of the Federation as we know it." She nodded, biting her lip. The Federation's fleet had been designed to overwhelm, to dominate, but they weren't prepared for humanity's adaptability. The weapons on those human ships weren't just advanced, they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was humanity's greatest strength. "We're out of options," she muttered, stepping toward the main console. "We need to stop them before they do something worse." But Myra's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp alarm blaring across the room. The screen flickered to life with a new transmission. Her pulse quickened as the face of Captain Nara appeared once more on the hologram, his expression cold and calculating. "Commander Kane," Nara's voice echoed, "I'm giving you one last chance. Surrender. The Federation will not be allowed to interfere with humanity's destiny. We've evolved beyond your grasp, and if you resist, your entire fleet will be destroyed. You have 24 hours to comply." The transmission cut off abruptly, and Mira stood frozen, staring at the empty space where Nara's face had been. 24 hours. Earth had made its demands clear, but Mira knew that this was no longer about negotiations. There would be no surrender. Humanity had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "We have no time," Mira muttered under her breath. "We need to act now." Myra's mind was sharp, her instincts kicking into overdrive. She turned to Garrick and the other officers, all of them watching her with a mixture of hope and desperation. They were out of their depth. The Federation had underestimated the ferocity and determination of the humans. Now, it was time to turn the tables. "We can't face them head-on with brute force," she said, her voice steady despite the rising chaos around her. "We have to outsmart them." Garrick raised an eyebrow. "Outsmart them? How do we do that?" Myra's gaze fixed on the screen once again. The Federation's fleet was waiting, but it wasn't just about physical weapons anymore, it was about strategy, timing, and understanding humanity's greatest strength, their relentless resourcefulness. "We need to get inside their minds," she said, her voice gaining strength. "We need to understand why they're doing this. There has to be a way to make them doubt themselves." Garrick looked at her skeptically. "You're asking us to create doubt in a species that has just demonstrated they can obliterate anything in their path?" Mira nodded. "Yes. If we can get to the root of their fear, their anger, we can change the course of this conflict." It was a gamble. A dangerous one. But it was the only option they had. And it wasn't about physical strength, it was about understanding the humanity that had made them so dangerous in the first place. "We need to find the source of their fear," Mira continued. "They've unlocked something ancient, something more powerful than they could ever have imagined. But I don't think they know what they've really unleashed. The Skron technology, it's not just weapons. It's a way of thinking, of perceiving reality. If they think they've become invincible, they're vulnerable." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "We need to send someone in. Someone who can get to them before it's too late." The Federation's fleet had begun to move into position. Mira had made her decision. The stakes were too high for hesitation, and Earth's newfound power was both a blessing and a curse. It was time to use their own technology against them, to create a situation where humanity would question its own course of action. "We're launching a covert mission," Mira said, turning to Garrick with resolve. "I need a team to infiltrate Earth's Central Command. I want to speak to their leaders, face to face. No more cryptic messages. No more threats. I'm going in." Garrick shook his head in disbelief. "Are you out of your mind? The fleet is already positioning themselves for a potential strike. We can't afford to waste time sending you on some kind of diplomatic mission." Myra's eyes narrowed, her voice hardening. "You're not listening, Garrick. We don't have a choice. This is the only way to prevent this from spiraling into something irreversible. I've been on the front lines, and I know humanity's drive. They don't just fight to win, they fight to prove something. If I can get in front of them, if I can make them understand what they've become, maybe, just maybe, we can stop this." Garrick's expression softened, and after a long pause, he finally nodded. "You're right. But I'm sending a team with you. We'll have your back." Mira didn't argue. She knew the mission was too dangerous to undertake alone, especially now that Earth's forces were equipped with the terrifying new weapons of the Skron. But it was a risk she was willing to take. If she didn't act now, the galaxy might be lost. The Federation fleet prepared for an assault, but Myra's focus was on the mission ahead. She and a small team of officers were heading to Earth's capital, where they would try to meet with the leaders of the new human regime. There was a slim chance of success, but it was the only option. As the shuttle prepared to launch, Mira stared out the viewport at the distant blue orb of Earth, now surrounded by a menacing fleet. It was humanity's home, a place of hope and conflict, of struggle and triumph. It had come a long way in a short time, and now it was teetering on the edge of a precipice. What had started as a single, violent act had turned into a galaxy-wide struggle for control. Mira took a deep breath, her resolve firm. This was no longer about preventing war. It was about saving humanity from itself. If she could reach them, if she could make them understand the cost of their snap, then perhaps there was still hope. But she knew the odds were slim. As the shuttle pierced the atmosphere, Mira felt the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. The galaxy was watching, waiting for her to succeed, or fail. There was no middle ground. "Let's get this done," she muttered under her breath, her eyes locked on the planet below. You said. The atmosphere around Earth was thick with tension as Myra's shuttle descended, cutting through layers of clouds that had once been the comforting veil of home. Now, they seemed hostile, ominous, as if the planet itself had turned against them. The Federation fleet loomed overhead, massive and unyielding, but Mira kept her focus on the mission. There was no turning back. Inside the shuttle, Mira sat next to Garrick, who had insisted on accompanying her. The rest of their small team was scattered, each with a specific task to ensure the mission's success. They would be landing in Earth's capital, the heart of the new regime that had emerged in the wake of humanity's snap. The mission was simple: to speak directly with the leaders of Earth, to make them understand what they had unleashed and convince them to stand down before it was too late. The shuttle's descent was smooth, but Mira could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. This wasn't just a negotiation. It was the final act of a tragedy that had been unfolding for years, one that could end in either salvation or destruction. Earth had become something unrecognizable, and humanity's future hung in the balance. As the shuttle touched down in the capital's central plaza, the doors opened with a hiss, revealing a world that felt both familiar and foreign. The streets were lined with tall, gleaming buildings, their sleek designs a testament to the technological advancements humanity had achieved in such a short span of time. But there was something off about the atmosphere, a quiet unease that permeated everything. People moved through the streets in small groups, their faces grim and determined, their eyes avoiding any form of eye contact. Mira could feel the fear in the air, the same fear that had driven Earth to snap in the first place. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival or for freedom, it was fighting to prove its worth, to show that it could dominate, that it was no longer bound by the weaknesses that had once defined them. But what had they become in the process? "We need to get to the council chamber," Mira said, her voice low but steady. "Keep your eyes open. Things might get ugly." Garrick nodded, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. The team moved quickly, staying close together as they navigated through the city. Their path took them past propaganda displays on every corner, flashing images of Earth's military might, its vast fleet of warships, and the once promising vision of a unified human race. Now, those same images seemed to mock them, a reflection of how far they had fallen. As they approached the towering council building, Myra's heart raced. She had faced countless battles in her career, but nothing compared to this. The walls of the council chamber were imposing, a fortress designed to make anyone who entered feel small and insignificant. But Mira wasn't here to cower, she was here to confront the very leaders who had taken humanity to the brink of extinction. They entered the chamber, and Myra's gaze immediately fell upon the high, raised dais where the leaders of Earth sat. They were a mix of military generals, political figures, and influential industrialists, each one a reflection of the power structure that had taken control in the wake of the rebellion. Their eyes flickered to Mira and her team, their faces unreadable. "You have arrived," one of the generals, a tall man with sharp features and cold eyes, said. "I assume you are here to surrender?" Mira stood tall, unflinching. "I'm here to prevent a war that you've already started. You've unlocked a power you don't understand, and now the galaxy is at your doorstep. If you don't stop this madness, you will destroy everything, humanity included." The room was silent, the air thick with tension. For a moment, Mira thought they would ignore her, dismiss her as nothing more than a nuisance. But then one of the political figures, a woman with striking red hair and an expression that could cut through steel, leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "You speak of destruction, Commander," she said, her voice smooth and calculating. "But you fail to see the bigger picture. The Federation has kept humanity in chains for centuries. It has suppressed our potential. We were always meant to be more than what they allowed us to be." Myra's jaw clenched. "That's not the point. You've unlocked something dangerous. You've seen what Earth's fleet can do. And now, you're threatening the entire galaxy. Do you think you can control this power? Because I promise you, you can't." The woman's smile was cold, almost predatory. "We don't need to control it. We simply need to use it. And once we've wiped out the Federation's forces, we'll have the freedom we deserve." The galaxy will bow to humanity, and we will reshape everything. Myra's stomach churned. This wasn't a fight for freedom, it was a fight for domination. And it wasn't a fight humanity could win. You don't understand what you're doing, Mira said, her voice rising with desperation. You think you're the victors in this conflict, but you've forgotten the most basic thing that made humanity strong, your ability to adapt, to change, to create something new from the ashes. You're not just fighting for survival anymore, you're fighting for your egos. And that's a war you can't win. The room shifted uncomfortably, and Mira could see the cracks in their confidence. For a moment, there was a flicker of doubt in the eyes of the leaders. The arrogance that had propelled them this far was beginning to waver. But just as it seemed like they might reconsider, a loud crash echoed from the hall outside. The doors to the chamber burst open, and in stormed a group of armed soldiers, humans, their faces cold and determined, ready to defend Earth's regime at any cost. Myra's heart raced. They've come for us, she muttered. We don't have much time. The political leader who had spoken earlier smirked. You're too late. This is humanity's moment. You were never meant to stop us. Without another word, the soldiers raised their weapons, pointing them directly at Mira and her team. Garrick moved swiftly, drawing his weapon and firing a warning shot, the blast ringing out through the chamber. But Mira knew they were outnumbered, and the fight would be over before it began. Listen to me, she said, her voice calm but resolute. You've already won. You've proved your point. But if you continue down this path, there will be nothing left to save. Don't let your pride destroy everything you've worked for. For a moment, there was hesitation in the air, as if the weight of her words was finally sinking in. And then, as the soldiers hesitated, Mira did something that shocked them all. She dropped her weapon. I'm not here to fight, she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of everything she had seen, everything she had fought for. I'm here to save you from yourselves. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. And in that silence, something remarkable happened. One by one, the leaders of Earth lowered their weapons, their eyes meeting Myra's in reluctant recognition. They knew she was right. They had crossed a line from which there was no return. But there was still a chance for redemption, still a chance for humanity to rebuild, not as conquerors, but as survivors. And in that moment, Mira realized something that filled her with a strange sense of peace. The future of humanity was never meant to be defined by their ability to fight, but by their ability to change. The galaxy would not forget the day humanity finally snapped. But it would also remember the day they chose to change. Mira turned away from the chamber, her team at her side. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's soul had only just begun.